got Zach and Fran in studio. It's going to be a good one. We're back, baby. The PHLY Eagles podcast coming up next. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful Monday afternoon in Philadelphia. We are here to talk about the Eagles. Bo Wulf, Fran Duffy, Zach Berman. The gang is here. We're going to try to be positive. As you like to say, Zach, the sky is not falling in Philadelphia today. The vibes in the city, immaculate. Nobody had to watch the Eagles play yesterday. They got to watch the Phillies win. And most importantly, the city is celebrating the fact that one of their own has joined the Immortals.
Where are you going with this?
Well, it's a big day, big morning.
Big morning.
Yeah, everybody's celebrating. Bo Wulf finally doing it. Go ahead, flash it up, Julia.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
What is going on here?
No wonder we're going to be optimistic today because I have joined the realm of the Immortals, Zach and Fran. Everybody's very excited. That's right.
Oh.
Wordle and one. Made it happen.
All right. Okay.
Very exciting day.
None of us
Congrats,
had any
man.
idea what you were doing. Congratulations.
Yeah. Congrats.
I know
Thank you very much.
A big day for you, big accomplishment.
Yes.
I've seen over your shoulder the amount of time and energy you put into Wordle.
I don't put much energy or time at all. It's usually about a 25-second endeavor.
The unfortunate thing is we can't ask you what the word was because I'm sure there are viewers and listeners that haven't played yet, so we don't want to spoil it for them. But
Yeah, but it's a
tomorrow I'll
different
ask
word
her.
every day.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll ask.
Okay. Yeah, very exciting. How you doing, Fran?
I'm good.
Got those guns out today, looking good.
Yeah, the sun's out, guns out. Well, not at all. But no, it was a fun weekend. We get to spend a little bit of time away.
Yeah.
But basically just watch
What'd you
football.
guys do?
Me and Francis had the weekend this week. So Meg was away. Meg every once in a while. So for bye week, either all of us go away together, or Meg will go away. My wife will go away.
Yep.
And then me and Francis will have the weekend, and that's
Sure.
exactly what we had this weekend. So Meg was in Chicago with her sister, and me and Francis had the weekend. It was a blast. We had a lot of fun.
How about you, ZB?
Had a great weekend. Similar to Fran, I picked up a lot of the father duties this weekend. So I had a flag football game. I had 2 soccer games.
How'd we do?
Spent quality time with the kids. They had a lot of fun, and that's what matters. But Reed played well in football.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, Reed played well in football. And
Well, I believe that.
slow in soccer, they don't really keep score.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But no, we went out for lunch, for dinner again. Yeah, we had a great time.
Double dinner.
We did like McDonald's on the way home from football. It was convenient. Otherwise, I would have had to make dinner pretty late. So it worked out great. And had a great weekend with them. Watched football, watched college football. Yeah, it was awesome.
Is Reed a trash talker in football or in sports?
He's not a trash talker, but he plans his touchdown celebrations.
Nice.
Ooh, I love that.
So in the car we're driving, and he was deciding between cradling the baby and spinning the football.
Okay.
Nice.
And so he spun the football.
Very nice.
Oh,
He did that.
Nice
Yeah.
subtle. He scored a touchdown flex.
He scored 2.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
So
you
did
go.
he spin the football
Actually,
both
he
times?
scored 1 touchdown and then threw for a
another?
2-point conversion.
Wow.
Okay. Nice.
I've come to realize that Francis is a natural trash talker. So he had soccer this week, and he likes playing defense and goalie. And it was like 3-on-1, and the kids couldn't score on him. And he then started to do the "Go ahead, it's open. Go ahead, try again." And kept stoning it. It was amazing. I was just cracking up on the sideline.
Jerks and
fantastic.
Profar will be proud.
Yes.
Did you see that last night?
No. I
Yes.
missed it.
Okay. So you complimented me, or like you played along with the reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he robbed a home run in front of the crowd, and then he like pretended for a moment like he didn't have it, and then
one of the great bits.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Like
All
a profar.
Okay. Why? You love him?
I didn't use the word love. I mean, we're not at like that stage.
I thought you said I love profar.
I said I like a profar.
Didn't he say love?
I honestly didn't hear either way.
Did I say love
I'm
or
pretty
like?
sure he just said love.
I said
You won't tell this audience at the end of a show when you're hosting that you love them, but you love Jurix and Profar?
I think I said I like a profar. Did I say love?
I mean, check it on the chat. I am.
Okay, all right.
I would say 90% sure you
We'll
said
play
love.
it back tomorrow. But no, I've had him on my fantasy team a few times, and he's performed for me.
Okay, well, I mean, what about the good people who watch this show every single day?
Well, I think I said I love the show. How about that?
You know,
Not at this particular moment, but
do you love the people who are coming to the event tonight?
yes, extraordinarily grateful for those coming to the event tonight. Excited to meet and greet, so to speak, and I'll talk to you. I'll talk to them about whatever is on their minds.
Probably how much you love Jurix and Profar.
I can't imagine that's going to come up tonight.
I mean, it's
those in the
100%
chat, yes,
coming
please,
up.
yeah,
Claire is
please
going to
bring it
be
up.
there. Claire is definitely going to bring it up.
Okay. Yes. Well, he's a former top prospect, right? So he's benefited from a change of scenery. You want to talk about change of scenery guys who've worked? Jurix and Profar is one of them.
There you go. So is your boy.
Oh no! Oh, the door is open.
Where's this going?
Well, I don't know if you. I don't know if are going to be called to be a character witness for Jabril Peppers.
No.
Bo. I advocated him as a good safety.
Okay,
free
let's
agency.
move on.
Yes.
Yeah, good idea.
Let's be optimistic today. We got a lot to talk about. The Eagles are back. We didn't get to watch them play yesterday, so I think everybody's feeling probably a little bit better. Like you're looking on the bright side of things, right? And what can we be hopeful for the second, or I guess more than half, the last 13 games of this regular season for the Eagles? They're 2-2. It's been an okay start so far. How are they going to be better? So we're going to do a little draft today. The players or coaches that we are most confident will be better post-bye than they were before the guy. Injuries play a part here, so there's a couple obvious answers here. Zach, it's your day, so you get to go first. We're going to go Snake, you, Fran, me, and then back we're going to go 12 players total, so 4 rounds. Are you ready to kick things off?
I am, and not because it's my day, but rather because I can't screw it up if I have the number 1 pick.
We've seen that too many times
Yes.
in the show to know that is not true.
Trey Thomas will be offended here, okay? My pick here is A.J. Brown, okay? The Eagles have played 4 full games and 3 quarters without A.J. Brown since he's come to Philly. In those 5 games, they've averaged 14.2 points and 196.2 passing yards per game. A.J. Brown has missed the past 3 games. The 1 game he played, the Eagles scored 34 points. The offense looked completely different than it did the following 3 games. I think I don't think he's a panacea, but I do think he changes so much within the offense, as it should. He's one of the elite players in the NFL. But I think that a lot of, not all, but a lot of these questions on offense can be close to being solved by having a player like A.J. Brown on the field.
That is the hope.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he is the best player on the team, probably. He's one of the very best players in the league at one of the most important positions. He changes the offense. When you get A.J. Brown back on the field, the entire offense should look much better, right? I mean, the best game that they had all season was the first game on offense when he did play.
Did you have it on your list? On your power rankings?
I did. You did not?
I didn't have it just because I was like, the injured guys, mainly AJ Brown. I almost just didn't include it because it's been such a small sample that I feel like he will definitely be better than what we saw the last.
Well, and even
4
with
weeks.
AJ Brown, Zach's texting before the show. I don't know if I can get to 12 guys.
Yeah, so what's funny is that I told Bo this earlier, Zach, is that I went through the entire roster and just said, all right, these would be people I would consider, and I got to 11. So I struggled getting to 12 too, and then I went through a second round and got to 14. So I've got some leftovers.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
but
In my spreadsheet next to one of the players, for the rationale is can't be this bad. Like that's
right.
basically that's basically like I
I think
don't
that's
have
several. And that could be like 4 or 5 different
Yes.
people.
Like I don't have statistical data. I don't have the matchup that he's playing. It's he can't be this bad.
Right.
So I don't know if that's a good sign, but it's certainly not a good sign. But AJ Brown, I can tell you, will make a dramatic difference for this team.
And do you think it's that simple on offense? I mean, I think what we learned in weeks 2 through 4 is that it was disappointing that the Eagles didn't seem to have a backup plan for no A.J. Brown. They spent all offseason imagining the A.J. Brown offense. That's what they rolled out in week 1. And then whatever their counter punches were pretty underwhelming. Obviously, they've had the bye week now to be able to figure that out a little bit. But maybe it is the case that all they need is A.J. Brown out there, and whatever offense they fashioned in training camp is the offense that they can play with.
Yeah, Rich and I talked about this on Friday. Was like the fact or fiction.
Enjoyed it, by the way.
Thank you. The fact or fiction idea of A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Lane Johnson fixing 90% of the Eagles' issues on offense. I don't think it's quite 90%, but I do think it's more than 50, right? I think that you get all those guys healthy. This unit should be a top 10 just by default, just because of the star power they have on that side of the ball.
You know what you did on Friday, by the way? That was impressive.
What's that?
First time you hosted the show.
Yeah.
You made sure to tell everybody that the show is presented by our good friends at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Go ahead, Zach.
I was having a conversation with someone over the weekend about Kellen Moore.
Flex.
You're on one today, Bill.
I told you. I started the day with a 1 on Wordle.
Yep.
I've been flying high. I had part 2 of the root canal today. I'm feeling great.
Awesome. Good.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, really happy for you. Gratitude's important.
So the conversation with said person was, this really doesn't look like Kellen Moore's offense in the past few weeks. Mm-hmm. And one of the explanations or rationalizations, if you will, was that without A.J. Brown, they maybe simplified some of the complexities of it. And when you look at maybe, we keep talking about motion, but that's one thing that we expected to see more of. That perhaps without A.J. Brown, they did simplify it. And with A.J. Brown, we'll see more of this Kellen Moore offense.
Yeah, I think, and even beyond the motion stuff, I mean, the numbers of the 2x2 sets that you talked to us about last week, Fran, were, I mean, pretty dispiriting, I would say.
Yeah, and to me, like the whole idea behind the ways you can use motion is to try and simplify things. Now, I do think, look, there was one of the things from my notes, and I didn't think about it until you just said it, Zach, was there was a play against Tampa where Jahan Dotson came in motion with Johnny Wilson lined up in the slot, and the timing of the motion was thrown off. And when Jalen dropped back and he went to go throw the ball to Jahan Dotson, Dotson wasn't where he needed to be. It was a simple, like, quick game throw, and I forget what the result of the play even was, but the timing was off.
Probably not a Dotson catch.
It wasn't a Dotson catch because he ended up having to scramble and roll right, and it may have been a positive play, may have been a negative play. But either way, there is timing that is required with those motion plays. So there could be something to that. I still don't think it'd be that drastic of a shift to go from 58% down to close to 40%, but that could explain some of that.
All right, are you ready to go with your first round pick?
I am.
The second overall selection.
And this was the top guy on my board was Jalen Hurts. And the way I look at it is when
I don't know where I'm going to go because
because the way I look at it is you get AJ back, you get DeVonta back, you get Lane back. Yes, that is going to certainly help Jalen Hurts' chances. And then you get into the turnover stuff, and whether you just say that turnovers happen in bunches and it's going to regress back to the mean, whatever it is. I think when you look at it, you would anticipate that Jalen is not going to continue on this pace that he's been in terms of turning the football over. You can look at Bo's favorite stat, the turnover-worthy play rate from Pro Football Focus. And we'll look at that's just the number we have, right? That is what it is. But so far right now, he's the worst in the NFL, 6.8% at the quarterback position in terms of turnover-worthy play rate.
I had him at 6.4.
Well, he would still be worse with that.
Oh, that's not true, actually.
In 2023, he was 24th in that metric at 2.3%. 2022, he was even lower on that metric at just 1.9%. So he's never been at the rate that he's at right now. And in fact, it's like the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And so you would say just naturally he's going to regress. But even then, I think still looking back, he's going to get back closer to what we've seen from Jalen Hurts. You get all the talent back on the field, I think it should be better.
Now, it is not just the turnovers.
Sure.
All of his numbers are the worst they have ever been in his 4 years as a starter. EPA per dropback, worst. Net yards per pass attempt, worst. Sack rate, worst. Time to throw, longest. Success rate, worst. Even as a runner, first downs per rush and third down conversions per when he runs on third down, does he get a first down? All of those are the worst. Some of them pretty significantly, the sack rate especially.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I would imagine that means some of those things are gonna bounce back, and obviously he gets A.J. Brown back. One of the things that I think is curious, and I wonder what you think about it, Fran. Two things. One is, remember the description from Tim McManus's article about the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni dynamic being that Jalen Hurts is the one who wanted to throw the ball over the middle of the field more. He's in a new offense. He's throwing it over the middle of the field, even less often than he did last year. Worse in the league again. And you look at where he is throwing the ball downfield. The only place where it's significantly different, all of his passes, not all of them, but the majority of his passes relative to years prior, like the 0 yards to 5 yards down the field. That's where the biggest bucket is coming from versus the rest of the league. That's the place where he is more than he was in past years.
Yep.
Why? Is it just A.J. Brown?
Well, and that's what I almost want to see, the middle of the field numbers and what they looked like in week 1 versus the rest of the slate, and just see if that was affected so largely by not having AJ on the field. I had heard that stat last week about the middle of the field numbers being lower. I think it might have been with Shield, and I think that's really interesting to me. It hadn't even occurred to me that they would be worse than they were a year ago because they were
this is
so,
like
they were so low.
So one of us is going to draft Bryce Huff, and then that he can't be worse.
Yeah, I do have some interesting numbers on Bryce Huff. We'll get to that in a little bit, but. No, I do think that, look, we're still, and that's the weird part about having the early bye, is that for this team, because we've seen like some really high moments and then we've seen some really bad moments from this offense and from this defense, it's such a small sample still, especially when you factor in like Brazil week 1, like was kind of a weird game. And then you had what was essentially like a blowout where you were starting the game at down 21-0 in Tampa. That's going to throw some of these numbers off from the way that they wanted to approach things from an offensive standpoint. I think it's a weird time to try and project moving forward. If this was a week 8 bye, you have such a big sample. Still with only a 4-game sample, it's going to be interesting to try and project this team forward.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So shout out to Ruben Frank for this number here, but I found this to be staggering and correctable, which is that Jalen Hurts is 25% of the red zone turnovers in the NFL this year among quarterbacks. Wow. That there are 12 overall. Jalen has 3 of them. No other quarterback has more than 1. 9 overall among every other quarterback in the league. And so, look, red zone turnovers.
That's a little noisy.
That's very noisy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It takes points off the board, right? And so if you simply like cut down on red zone turnovers, that has a material effect on the scoring in games.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so beyond that, just over the course of a game, league-wide, 16th in EPA per dropback, 14th in success rate, 22nd in net yards per pass attempt. I mean, that seems like what he's playing like, if not even a little bit worse.
Yeah,
I expect that he will play better.
He should be better than that, and that's kind of the way I looked at it. And that's why the first point is AJ healthy, DeVonta healthy, Lane Johnson healthy. That should result in Jalen Hurts. Like those bottom line numbers should all improve with the talent at his disposal.
Okay. All right. I will use my first pick here. I'm going to continue the ripple effects of AJ Brown.
Okay.
And I'm going to go DeVonta Smith here. Now, DeVonta's been productive in the games that he has played. The reason that I am bullish on DeVonta Smith is related to, I think, the week 1 offense we haven't seen since week 1. And you look at the usage, and I know that DeVonta in the slot is sort of a pet topic of mine, but I will go back there. Week 1, in the snaps when they were in 11 personnel, so there were 3 receivers on the field, 71% of his snaps were in the slot. Week 2, no A.J. Brown. It was 50%. And remember, they started the game like putting Britton Covey on the outside so that DeVonta could be inside, and then they sort of got away from that.
Yep.
And then in week 3, it was down to 32%. And then they also played more 12 personnel. So I do think that in the ideal version of this offense, Kellen Moore wants to have 11 personnel and DeVonta in the slot and Jahan Dotson on the outside, and DeVonta can take advantage of his superpower, which is that ability to manipulate space as good as anybody in the league and find those open zones. And Jalen Hurts, probably that's where his passes over the middle of the field are going to come from, is DeVonta in the slot, right? And so I think DeVonta also raising the ceiling of the offense by being able to win inside.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you're talking about DeVonta in the slot being more correlated to those middle of the field plays, I think that's actually a more valid point even than AJ, because AJ was known as that middle of the field demon in Tennessee, but that's not been how his usage has always been here in Philly. He's been more of that outside the numbers, a lot of the downfield stuff that we've come to expect from AJ Brown here with Jalen Hurts. But having DeVonta in the middle of the field should increase the volume of some of those throws to that area.
Did you have DeVonta on your list?
I did have DeVonta on my list now, injured player, but also I do think he's a more he'll have more voluminous production than what you saw earlier on. I had in our predictions before this year that he would be a 100 catch player. I still think he can be that type of player. I expected more volume from him, and I think you'll see more of that from DeVonta.
All right, before we get to round 2, time to hear a word from our sponsors. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I know that so many of you are probably checking out Game Time looking for these Mets-Phillies tickets. I mean, could it even be worth a drive up to New York, potentially? Monitor if it makes to Game 5 on Friday. Friday, right? Friday.
Friday
would be Game 5. Yeah. Yep. I mean, who knows? Game Time's going to hook you up. Game Time is the app that features the customize your spot and supplemental. What am I reading here? What have I lost? There's the super deal.
Yes.
There's the curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. There's obviously, we all know you can check out the view from your seats before you buy. There's the lowest price guarantee, the event cancellation protection, the job loss protection, and more. I've said it before. When I'm looking to buy tickets, I will check the prices on Game Time. I will check the prices elsewhere, and it is true. Game Time always has the best prices and the most honest prices. You get to see the fees included. So Game Time will hook you up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Now, 3 ways to get me interested in a product. There are more than 3, but 3 ways would be to tell me it's a premium product, it won't break the bank, and it has very high reviews from consumers. Okay? Well, of course, Shady Rays fits all 3 of those categories. Shady Rays, for those who don't know, and by this point, you should know. Because
I put in a Shady Rays order this weekend.
That is awesome, and I hope you used code PHLY.
Goddamn right I did.
Because Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. So that speaks to me right there. They have you covered with premium polarized shades, so that gets me there, and it won't break the bank. So that gets me there. You're hitting a trifecta. They have hundreds of options to choose from, which I also like.
I was laughing behind the scenes. I'm assuming based on the phrase, that's what gets me there.
They have hundreds of options to choose from. That's another thing that I particularly enjoy because I like a variety. And you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, which is also good because, as you can tell, all of us have different styles. They probably have a style that you enjoy. So I wear Shady Rays while I watch football practice, while I drive, while I watch my children play sports. If your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, because let's face it, I am sometimes, put my shades in my pocket. I get it out, they're crooked. Don't sweat it, because they have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days, which is also something I really enjoy, a good return policy. Exclusively for but you don't need to use that return policy at Shady Rays because they're so good. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off. Polarized shades. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
All right. I'm between 2 here.
Okay.
For my second round pick, both on defense. but I'm going to go with Quinyon Mitchell, and I think this is
interesting.
a tough one
Okay,
because he has played probably better than anybody else on the defense. And the reason that I'm going with Quinyon Mitchell, he's going to get some picks at some point.
Yeah,
right. We have seen those instincts. He's gotten his hands on the ball. At some point here, he's going to come down with those and maybe take one to the house. And I don't expect him to take that much of a step back.
Right.
I mean, he's a player who should be ascending. He's getting more reps. You know, he's seeing these guys in person. And so as everybody on the defense hopefully gets a little bit more acclimated to Vic Fangio's defense, I think Quinyon Mitchell can be even more of a playmaker in the defense.
I'm really worried that I'm playing like a different game than you guys are because you guys have picked 3 players that weren't on my list of 12. So I'm like scraping the bottom of the barrel here, I think. But yeah, I do think that you can expect that Quinyon's going to have better production in terms of ball production that we've seen so far. And I do think he's been a hairpin away from being able to pull away an interception so far. He's one of the best in the league right now when it comes to forced incompletions, just getting his hands on football. So I do think that that's something that you can count on him down the stretch here.
The reason he was not on my list, I don't believe in like a one size fits all approach to commentating. So like when you say, oh, he's going to hit the proverbial rookie wall.
Yeah.
That's not always the case, but it does concern me in his particular case because there's going to be more exposure on him now. Like we're right, like teams have more film on him than they did before. He'll face really good wide receivers going forward here. And when you talk about the rookie wall, you also talk about like the amount of snaps someone takes. He never played more than 14 games in college, right? And so I do wonder if he's someone who come December is like ready for the offseason. I don't know that to be the case, but that was why he was not on my list.
Okay, interesting.
And he's played well so far. So I think
it's a high bar. He's the only one on my list who is like I'm expecting him to get even better than he's been at a high level.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm expecting big things from him, and so I wouldn't say that he has like surpassed my expectations from the first 4 weeks because I had pretty high thoughts on him coming in, but I'm expecting that to continue.
The conversation you had with Rich on Friday about like, do you expect him to be a Pro Bowler? I think is good. Fair to say that you expect him to be like not a proverbial Pro Bowler, not at like
a professional bowler,
the Surtain level, but
right.
like a guy who every now and then
like a Darius Slay level corner. I
Yeah.
think that he's going to be a legit viewed as a number one corner guy, but not like that elite tier. That would be my guess.
I think that's realistic.
Yeah.
All right, over to you.
All right, so. This is my first coach. I'm going to go with Vic Fangio here.
I thought you might go Singleton.
No, I'm going to go. I'm a big Singleton guy though, but I'm going to go Vic Fangio, and I'll start with cherry picking a stat from our friend Sheil Kapadia last week over on the Philly Special.
Speak for yourself. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but there was a great number from Sheil. Last year in Miami, the 2023 Dolphins, they were 32nd in success rate after the first 4 weeks of the year, and then they were 4th in success rate from weeks 5 through 18.
Can he make it
injuries.
through?
Oh, I got through it. Despite those injuries. And so I do think we've talked about how the Vic Fangio defense can lend itself to being a little bit of a slow starter, takes time to get the guys acclimated to the system and up to speed. That could be something that we see here with this team. And I think that we've seen some ups and downs, certainly on the back end for me is where we've seen more volatility. Where, week 3 against New Orleans, I thought the execution on the back end in the secondary was really, really strong. And then it took a huge step back against Tampa where you saw miscommunications and the coverage was too soft and too loose. And so to me, I think when you look at it from the back end and you say, if that execution is better, that should give the front four some time to get home. Maybe that helps the pass rush a little bit. So for me, I would look at it as that defense, especially look at the next few weeks. I think there's going to be an opportunity for this defense to put up some good numbers and that the success rate and the EPA per play and all those different metrics should improve here for this unit.
And so why would that be? Why would Vic's defense in particular take extra time?
I think when you're talking about, and I remember thinking about this in 2022 when the Eagles went on that Super Bowl run and the Kaiser White was new, CJ Gardner-Johnson was new, James Bradbury was new. The way that they were able to execute back then, in terms of passing guys off and the communication and zone coverage was so good, so fast. And I said, because you typically don't see that. Typically that takes time when you have zone heavy schemes and there's a lot of that communication that's required. That's a timing and feel thing. That's a time on task type of thing, especially with CJ being traded for the week before the season. I anticipated that there would be a little bit of a slow start for the Eagles in that way because you're asked to do some different things, and you had new players on the back end working together for the first time. And so, especially when you throw rookies into the mix, I think Nakobe Dean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they've had a lot of mistakes in terms of passing guys off. You look at Quinyon Mitchell as well, being guilty of that. And so, I think when you look at overall, those are mistakes that should be ironed out over time.
Sounds like a well-coached defense in 2022.
I knew you were going to say that.
Denard Wilson did a great job with that secondary.
That's exactly what I was
They gave up like
referencing.
40 points to the Lions in week 1.
Right.
Whatever it was. But
Wow. Jeez. You really don't like Denard Wilson. I was referencing Denard Wilson.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Not the defensive coordinator.
Sure you were.
Oh, well, that too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, both of them.
Do we need to get back to your boy?
What?
No.
So, I hear you on Fangio. I was deciding between the two coordinators, and I don't want to jump on anyone's, future pick here.
Yep.
But I favored more Kellen Moore in this exercise than Vic Fangio because I think Vic Fangio might have a personnel issue, right? And I think I don't know how much of the problems on defense are scheme related compared to personnel related, and I think that I'm underwhelmed so far by the personnel on defense.
And they've also been healthy on defense, where they haven't been healthy on offense.
What
And
spots
so-
are you most worried about talent-wise, though?
edge rusher.
Off the edge. Josh Sweat.
Yeah, I'll
getting it done.
include Josh Sweat. I mean, Josh Sweat hasn't played well enough. Bryce Huff hasn't played well enough.
Certainly.
And I think like if Bryce Huff was your fourth rusher like he was in the past, then okay. But when he's counted on to be your number one rusher, that's a concern to me. Their defensive line depth beyond Jalen Carter is a bit of I haven't seen enough from Jordan Davis this year.
That's not depth though. That's
or I'm saying they're so.
I actually think their defensive tackle depth is pretty good.
Yeah. So down the depth. Yeah, you're Thomas Booker, Ojama, Ajama. And then we can go on through all three levels, but. Yeah, I think personnel is a question on defense.
I also think, much like we talk about the turnover regression, I would expect on offense. I do think you can expect that a little bit.
At some point, they got to get the ball.
It's going to go back the other way. We laughed at it because it was in the extreme in 2022. And the coach is going to say, oh, well, we coach this and gets better. But I do think that there's the bounce of the ball will come back in the defense's way. I mean, we've seen a handful of dropped interceptions from this team so far. Quinyon Mitchell, we mentioned, has been this close to getting an interception a couple of times. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had one go through his hands on a tip ball. Nakobe Dean had the dropped interception against Green Bay. 3 of those go the other way here in the second. I keep saying the second half.
And a couple.
I know. I keep saying it. Right, but after this, I think
sack production leads to fumbles.
Yep.
Right. So I think that's all. That's all correlated. All right. Go ahead, Zach.
I feel good at getting one of my high picks here. In that, if we actually had a scoring system, I would feel strong about my group. So the one game that I feel good about, we don't actually score it. I'm going Cooper DeJean here. Okay,
that's a good one
because Cooper DeJean has been a bit player for the Eagles through these first 4 weeks. His playing time, you're looking at 8 defensive snaps through the first 4 games. I expect him to potentially get 8 defensive snaps on the first series next week, or certainly in the first quarter next week, because I think he's going to become the Eagles' starting slot corner, and I think he can have
You think it will happen as soon as this week?
That's what I think.
Okay.
Now, look, I could be wrong here. When they signed Avonte Maddox, I didn't think it was to be their starting slot. Certainly when they drafted Cooper DeJean, I thought that it was going to happen sooner rather than later. The injury during the offseason affected his timeline.
Yep.
But now you're over a month of him practicing and playing. You're about 6 weeks of him practicing, 4 games in a bit role. I can see Cooper DeJean getting in there. You spoke about the Eagles needing ball production on defense. The Fran Duffy scouting reports during his time at Iowa praised his ball production there. I mean, that's one thing he was able to do. He's proven, at least in college, to be a good tackler, right? We'll see how he is in terms of coverage. I can't, there's certainly going to be an adjustment there. But I think in terms of tackling And in terms of interceptions, 2 areas where this Eagles defense needs help, tackling and interceptions, I think Cooper DeJean can be a major boost to this defense.
I do think that the disdain for Avante so far is probably a little bit overblown. I don't think he's been as bad as most would make you think that he's been, but I do think you want to try and get DeJean in there as fast as possible.
Yeah, to me, it's even less about Avante than it is like
no doubt.
Let's get the more talented guy on the field. Let's let him learn on the job.
Yep.
Let's get the let's do what's in the best service of making this the best defense in December and not this week.
No
and
doubt.
That's the tension we've talked about for a long time with Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. But yeah, I mean they got to get him on the field.
Yep.
And I think there will be growing pains. Like that is a tough position.
The same thing what we talked about with the last point about the defense, the communication on the back end. You insert another rookie into the mix, it's only gonna make it harder.
And that's harder than it is on the outside, right?
Yep.
With Quinyon Mitchell.
No
So I actually think like there will be a bit of a dip with Cooper DeJean before there is a rise. But I think you're right. I mean, he's certainly going to be more involved.
Yeah.
And by the way, what you just referenced, my understanding is that's what's kind of kept him from being the top guy is the communication aspect of it. Nick Sirianni said in an answer 2 or 3 weeks ago that it's not just what you're assigned to do, it's making the adjustments when they make their adjustments, right? And Avonte Maddox is experienced in that area. Cooper DeJean is not. But I think you will have to take the peel off and let him play.
Mm-hmm. All right, you get to go again, Zach.
Oh, okay. So this is good. I'm feeling good about this here. So I mean, I could go obvious here, which is the next one on my list is Sidney Brown. I'm not going to do that because it's a similar logic to AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Like he hasn't done anything yet. He's going to play. So I'll defer to you guys if you want one of that.
It's not on my list.
I think that's why we all have Albert Okwuegbunam high on our lists. At some point, he's coming.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure about that.
Yeah, me neither. I think he's Barrett.
Yeah. So let's go Milton Williams.
Interesting.
Good one. Okay.
Because
I thought about having him on there.
Yeah, because I think if you just watch the way they're playing, Milton Williams deserves more playing time. I know PFF is not a reliable indicator from your perspective, but it is one data point we can use.
It's a data point, yeah.
Right? He's ranked number 12 in pass rush interior, pass rush rate from the interior. And I think that we've seen him, make plays during the first 4. He has a sack through his first 4 years or his first 3 years, and the first 4 weeks. We've seen more of it. They're using Bo's idea of getting him on the edge to kind of get maybe their best unit out there at times. And I think as this season progresses, it's going to be pretty clear to Vic Fangio, just play your play your best combination, right? And I think there are combinations. I think Milton Williams' his versatility allows him to be in some of these best combinations.
I was surprised by this when I looked at the Eagles, who have all had at least 30 pass rush snaps. We like the hard data, so give me the quarterback hits per pass rush snap. And again, it's a small sample size. It's only 4 games, and there's a lot of noise in here. But who do you think is number 1?
Josh Sweat.
It is Josh Sweat.
Right.
By a pretty significant amount. He's at 6.1, which is, I think, 14th in the league for guys who have had at least 90 pass rush snaps.
Are you introducing that as a surprise or as just like a?
It's a fact.
Yeah, okay, because it's not a surprising fact, but okay.
I think it is a surprise. Do you think does he look to you like he's played great?
Zach's leaning into the bit of him being a Josh Sweat guy. 2 minutes ago,
I know that he is, and I actually thought you were going to draft Josh Sweat.
Look,
he's on my list.
Fairly obvious,
I do have Sweat on my list. But
go ahead if you want to flash it up, Marissa. I made a prediction before the show. I wanted it on the record.
Julia, not Marissa.
Was I say Marissa?
Wow, yeah, you did.
Wow.
Oh, Julia, I'm so sorry. Wow. That's embarrassing. It's Browns week.
Yes, that's true.
So yes, I said Zach is going to draft Josh Sweat in round 3. I went very specific, but that's
blame it on the root canal.
So after Sweat is Brandon Graham at 3.4%, Jalen Carter at 2.6%, then Milton Williams at 1.8%. That surprised me. I think that's the function of most of his snaps are coming from the inside. Then Jordan Davis, then Ajama, and then both Bryce Huff and Nolan Smith at 0 with 0 quarterback hits, and they are one of a very small handful of players in the NFL who have had as many pass rush snaps as they have without a single quarterback hit. So, I'm in on Milton. I think some more production could come from him, probably at the expense of Jordan Davis snaps.
Yeah, but I think that I'd have to look at it, but I don't think that he's been like starving for snaps, right?
Yeah,
like, where does
right.
he rank right now?
Right.
Like in terms of the snaps up
I
front?
have that up. I'm sorry, I have that up here. He is fourth. He's played 46% of the defensive snaps. Jalen Carter has played 76%. Jordan Davis 50%. Brandon Graham 49%. Milton Williams 46%.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Jordan is ahead of him. I would anticipate that probably flips at some point too.
Yeah, man, the Brandon Graham snaps are nuts.
Yeah,
Imagine looking at that before the season started. That
Right. You would have thought there was
the
injuries.
most of the edge rushers.
Right. Yeah, I don't
wild.
anticipate that continuing. All right,
I'll go to you.
I'll go to me. This will be in like the Quinyon Mitchell tier.
Oh, okay.
I actually struggled here after Fangio. I was like, all right, that's a tier break for me. And so this one's Jalen Carter.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that we've seen some really high moments from Jalen Carter so far. This one I didn't even like look at data. I'm just like kind of saying that this one is just like anecdotally, we've seen some really high moments from the second-year defensive tackle. Now it's just about the consistency. I think he's got some good matchups here coming up in the next few weeks, working inside. Obviously, a lot of teams struggle on the interior in terms of pass rush, and that's what you're hoping that Jalen Carter can bring. It could start this week going up against Cleveland. I think when you look at Carter, what he can bring to the table, I would expect more from him, and I think the Eagles are expecting more from him from a productivity standpoint moving forward.
Yeah, and it doesn't even need to be like week 3 every week. It's
Right.
just better than weeks 1, 2, and 4.
And
most
four,
of the weeks.
I actually think that 4 wasn't as bad. I think there was more that was the ball coming out because he had some really good reps in week 4 against Tampa. I just think that you're hoping for a little bit more consistency overall.
Yeah, and I think of all the answers so far, aside from the quarterback and I guess the wide receivers, like that's the most important one. If he can take a step forward, that will make a big difference.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. All right. Before we get going with the last 4 picks of this draft, we take another moment to talk about our friends. This time, it's our friends at Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and that sweet, sweet price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but those copycats can't beat Empire Today when it comes to quality, service, speed, all that good stuff. So they're going to try to undercut, they're going to advertise low-quality products that the good folks at Empire Today simply would not carry. Empire Today will not promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Schedule a free in-home estimate with our friends at Empire Today. Today, all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details.
We'll now talk about our friends at Rite Aid and talk about the importance of getting your flu shot. Obviously, there's a lot of big games this week. We got Eagles. I'm not just moving on from that one. Eagles Browns, obviously a big one Sunday, but we got a couple big Phillies games this week. We got Sixers back in action as well. You don't want to miss big games. You don't want to miss. We got Halloween in a couple weeks. We got Thanksgiving. We're hitting the holiday season. You don't want to miss any of these important dates. So it's important. Go and get your flu shot at your local Rite Aid. While you're at the pharmacy, you can get the latest COVID-19 vaccine. You can stay up to date on everything else that you need from a medical standpoint. You can even ask your pharmacist for a vaccine review or recommendations. It's back to school season, which means everything is getting passed around, whether it's the stomach bugs, different variations of the flu, you got colds, you got the fall allergies, obviously. A person's immune protection from a vaccination, it declines over time. So if you got your flu vaccine last year, it's time to get a new one. It's that time of year. So you want to make sure you help protect yourself against the flu by getting that annual flu shot at Rite Aid today. According to the CDC, flu vaccination may reduce a child's risk of severe life-threatening influenza by 75%. Help protect your family by getting flu shots at Rite Aid today. Things to remember is that, look, flu viruses, they are constantly changing. So this year's flu, it's different from last year's, and next year's will be different than this year's. So get that flu shot. It's formulated specifically to help protect you against this year's expected flu strains. The flu vaccine does not protect against COVID-19. So the COVID-19 vaccinations do not protect you from the flu either. So you want to make sure you get vaccinated from both. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys go one shot in either arm, or do you guys go both in one?
In the left.
Both in the left arm.
No, I do opposite arms.
Why? You spread the pain around?
The doctor recommended that. Yeah,
Really?
I trust the doctor.
Oh, well, I haven't gotten that recommendation.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, no. Left side only because you never know if someone's going to need me to throw a couple pitches. Like,
How does that
it
happen?
could happen.
Okay.
Sure.
They run out of arms. They need somebody. I'm here.
Well,
Get me on the bump.
Well, look, when Bo is at the pharmacy and he's getting them in his left arm, he can also stock up on cough, cold, and flu, and of course all the fall allergy essentials as well. Rite Aid has what you need to get you through flu season. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule at riteaid.com. State, age, and health restrictions do apply. Ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for details.
All right. I've got my 2 picks here, and I will take the guy who has the lowest floor on the team so far, and that is Bryce Huff. He has been garbanzo, probably on track to be the worst Howie Roseman free agent signing in his history. And so, this is one where I was wrong on it in the offseason. You joke about the Josh Sweat comparison, Zach, but they paid him more money than they're paying Josh Sweat. Certainly, they were expecting him to be more productive. It is the sliding doors of the offseason. They could have paid, as we talked about last week, a little bit more for Jonathan Grenard. Maybe they could have paid for Xavier McKinney instead not sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then you play for a different edge rusher, all these different things. However, the problem is, I feel like the focus on him being able to be a full-time player and playing on rundowns is not the problem. Like, that would be a bonus. The problem is he can't even get after the quarterback in these obvious pass rush situations. He's been terrible. And I just have to believe that even though he was the 4th option for the Jets and was maybe taking advantage of attention being paid elsewhere, and maybe those numbers were too high, even with that, like, they have to find a way to get him playing like a regular NFL player, because he has looked completely lost. And I know Baldy has talked about the 4-point stance versus the 2-point stance. If there is something to that, if there is, maybe Vic Fangio will let him do that. But I mean, 0 quarterback hits. He has to be a little bit better than that.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking regarding the Bryce Huff conversation is, like, this is also the value of us watching training camp every day, right? Because you can hear all the things they say, excited about this player, so on and so forth. If you go back and read our training camp notes, one of the consistent themes was, like, Bryce Huff's not getting to the quarterback. And you kind of put it, he's going up against Lane Johnson. Like, this is where
I actually do think in training camp the comparison to Hassan Reddick is appropriate. It is not right about, like, the way that Hassan Reddick was rushing early in his career with the Eagles in regular season games. But in training camp, it did look like this for Hassan.
Sure.
But Bryce Huff is, like, I'm trying to figure out what he does really well, right? And he's not, like, particularly a bendy around the edge. He's supposed to have more power, I suppose, but you don't really see the speed, the power come through when you watch him play. And then I watched the Jets yesterday. It might just be that system and that personnel frees guys up. They have guys down the depth chart getting to the quarterback.
Surprisingly, Jermaine Johnson is one of the guys who has no quarterback hits.
He's injured.
He's hurt.
I know, but even when he had snaps,
sure.
Yeah, so I am. Look, I said going into the offseason that Bryce Huff's a guy I would target. I was looking at those numbers. I was looking at the age profile. So I got to say, I was wrong here too, but I'm not paid to make these decisions, right? So this has been underwhelming in a major way.
And I imagine it is mystifying to them, right? Like,
well, I would imagine mystifying to Howie. We don't know what Vic Fangio wanted, or look,
sure.
So that's it, but certainly mystifying to Howie.
So here's how I approached it, because I had him on my list as well, and so I was like, all right, if I end up having to make the argument for why you would have optimism, like if there's a path to him turning this around, what would the path be? One of the markers that a lot of people look at for the successful pass rushers is you go to Next Gen and you look at the GPS stuff and the movement and the get off. And if you look at, like, the average get off time and you say, all right, who are the guys that are first out of their stance? That is typically a really good marker for who some of the top pass rushers in football are. And you go every single year since Next Gen has made that data available. Again, whoever's at the top, it's usually a pretty good marker for who is getting after the quarterback best. Last year, Bryce Huff was 5th in that metric. And so far, through the first 5 weeks, I checked this morning, Right now, Bryce Huff's tied for 9th in terms of his average get-off. You have Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett at the top. Then you have Leonard Floyd, Will Anderson, Von Miller, Trey Hendrickson, Greg Rousseau, Darrell Taylor, and then it's Bryce Huff tied with Max Crosby at that for that 9th spot. So like he knows how to get off the ball, and that would be what I would say to point against Baldy's point about the 2 3-point sets. He's getting off the ball, okay. He's like stumbled on that second and third step. Yeah. He's getting pushed to the ground at the point of contact. So unless this guy
doesn't look like he has a plan at contact,
and that's
right?
That's what I mean. Like unless this guy just completely forgot how to rush the passer, he has like no confidence right now. And that's why I look at it and say, this is something that you, in theory, should be able to get flipped. Like, unless his brain just got left in North Jersey, like he's done it before, he's still getting off the ball. What's the path to him trying to figure this out? The next few games, Cleveland this week, that offensive line has been a sieve. And the right tackle,
they're missing their best player.
Well, Michael Dunn was activated this week. And we'll see if he ends up getting inserted into the starting lineup at all. But they're 31st right now in pressure rate. DeJuan Jones has really struggled with speed at right tackle. The Giants, they're bottom half in the league in pressure rate. Jermaine Illuminor, 4th most quick pressures allowed at right tackle. Amarius Mims, the right tackle for the Bengals. The Eagles play them in 3 weeks. He got carted off yesterday in the game against the Ravens. So you go down the list. Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, the Rams. Offensive line issues galore. So the opportunity is there for Bryce Huff. It can't be what we saw the first 4 weeks. It's got to be better than that. I would say that he's a good candidate for this conversation.
And if he can just be a third down specialist,
that's a win.
That's fine.
Yep, that's a win.
That's fine.
If he gets to the quarterback, yes.
Right. Yeah. If he's just providing some pass rush juice, that's all they need.
The get off is that all the marker that, to me, that would be like the number one marker you look for, and it's there. So there's no reason to say that unless he just completely forgot what he's doing, that it should continue down this road.
Well, now, by the way, I feel underprepared and disappointed in myself because Fran just had terrific points, and he was the guy on my spreadsheet that said can't be this bad. Bryce Huff, the one that I mentioned, like just says can't be this bad. All the other guys,
I'm sure you would have said more if you had to.
I have numbers, and if it got to that point on my chart, I would have just said can't be this bad.
Okay. All right, my last one. There's some options here. I talked about Alberto. Obviously, can't be less of a factor than he was these first 4 games. I'm gonna go Tyler Steen.
Interesting.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's off the board.
List. That's a good one.
Yeah. And I think for a few reasons here. What we saw in that last game where Cam Jurgens went out and Landon Dickerson went to center and Tyler Steen went to left guard was very interesting to me. And that, to me, makes the case that Tyler Steen is the backup at all three interior positions, right?
Yeah.
And Fred Johnson didn't play great.
I mean, he didn't play well at all.
He didn't play well.
Not even
in that right tackle game.
Great.
And so I'm starting to wonder if there's another injury at tackle if they're moving things around because Tyler Steen played well.
There's a lot of paths to success here.
I think there's a lot of paths to Tyler Steen getting on the field and playing pretty well. I mean, you agree that he did play well in that Week 3 game, right? And so I think that Tyler Steen has a chance to be one of the feel-good stories of this season for the Eagles, given the dip of losing the presumptive right guard job in the summer and then becoming a borderline reliable player for them on offense and maybe even penciled into a spot moving forward to 2025.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a misstep on my part. I didn't even have him on that list. I think that's a great argument.
We've seen a similar movie before. Isaac Seumalo, third-round pick, who the organization had hopes that he would turn into a starter like year 2. Did not happen. He was, he lost his job, was a valuable reserve, and then he got to a point in his career where he was ready to start, and he was a major part of successful offensive lines. Like, not all development curves are the way you might see, year 1 you learn, year 2 you start, right? And so, that is a good one. I did like the way he played in that game. I asked Nick going back sometime late summer, are you going to start playing Tyler Steen at tackle to get him ready for a swing tackle role? He should be able to play swing tackle, right? He was a tackle in college. He was a tackle at times last year. So, I like that one.
You could even think about if, like, let's say, knock on wood, Lane went down for a significant time. You could think about moving Becton over and keeping Steen at right guard. I don't think they want to do that. I think it would be more likely that they would just do Steen. I mean, I think they would probably give Fred Johnson another shot first, but that's a possibility. Were you surprised, Fran, at the Dickerson to center?
Yes,
especially in game.
Yeah,
right.
I think that especially when you had, we've kind of figured that would be like the Nick Gates.
That's literally why he's on the
what else is
roster.
he here
Yeah.
for?
But I guess he's just further down that pecking order, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's why is Darian Kennard there if Fred Johnson's going to get the start and if Tyler Steen's going to be the next guy up on a bunch of spots? So I think it's just those guys are down the line.
We're all thinking like this is what Dylan McMahon should be here for, but
all of us are thinking that.
One of us will think of that. I do think when you.
And I wonder if it would be the same if they had, like, if Cam Jurgens missed a game, if they would still do that.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, if you're confident enough to do it in game, then you would be confident enough to do it for a long-term replacement.
And
too.
I mean, if you just think about it, it makes sense. You have more confidence in Tyler Steen than you do in Nick Gates. So if you think that Landon can handle center, then that makes sense.
I think it would be the inverse would be the question. If it was like, a guy got missed, but would they do that if it were in game?
Right.
The fact that they're willing to do it in game, I think makes it, that they would do it if you were to miss a game.
All right. Who's your round 4 pick?
All right. So let's have this conversation because I think that there were a few of these that were kind of like tied at the hip. And it really comes down to how did the offensive staff handle this bye week? When you're looking at the offensive structure, and we talked last week about trying to find an identity for this Eagles offense and leaning into what you did well in the first 4 games. To me, it's okay. The Kellen Moore offensive structure and the philosophy there. We talked about it a little bit earlier with Zach's point about missing A.J. Brown and how that affected motion rates and things like that. The impact of who is like calling the shots with the offense and all of this. Because I had like Nick Sirianni game management further down my list as well in terms of like power rankings. But I think all of that's intertwined is when the team kind of, because the coaching staff, they spend a chunk of the bye week introspectively looking at what you've done well. How do you lean into that? What didn't you do well? How do we get away from that? Will we see more creativity and more stuff that we saw, honestly, like in that week 1 game? Will that be more of the norm than the exception than in the final 13 games?
So who are you picking?
I picked the Kellen Moore offensive structure one. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
I put that together. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're saying like we talked about earlier.
I thought you were leading up into, and so I think that Will Shipley is going to be more involved in the offense.
No,
he's going to play 2 snaps.
It's the Kellen Moore offensive structure. I think there was a little bit further down my list than some of these others. And I think it's important for us to have that conversation here in the show because it's one of the biggest things I think that's most important for this team here after the bye.
It's a little bit like the Bryce Huff conversation in like you've seen it, so you have to believe it's in there.
Yeah,
we saw it in week 1. It's got to be in there, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. AJ Brown is the panacea, right? But yeah, I mean, now it does also go to the conversation of it's not like Kellen Moore was like the most attractive offensive coordinator candidate of all time. Like he has had his own struggles. And so it's not, he's not even Vic Fangio, right? And we talked about maybe they should have chased more of a ceiling there, but certainly he's looked better than what we've seen the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and to me, it just comes down to like how confident are you that they were able to get together and fix the problems in the last 8 days?
And I think that this is supposed to be the optimistic episode.
Yeah,
but
that's hard for you though.
Well, I'm a realist.
You're calling it as a
Zach.
Yeah, right.
And so the Palace intrigue of the bye week coming at this point is very interesting to me. And you could see a situation where Jeffrey would go to Nick during this time off when there's no game coming up and being like, "Hey, I told you to stay out of the offense." Let this be Kellen's offense, please. I don't know.
And the game management part of it too. Yeah. In terms of like the fourth down.
Hey,
the fourth down
listen to what they're telling you.
If you were going to do it, this was the week to do it.
Yeah.
What would Philadelphia be like this morning if Nick Sirianni did what Sean McDermott did yesterday?
You inform us. Let us know. Yeah. What did he do?
Oh, did you not see it, or you just want me to tell me?
It was the afternoon game. I was watching the Mets.
Red October. So a lot of our viewers may have missed that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the Houston Texans, our boy D'Amico Ryans, punted with about 40 seconds to go. Okay.
McDermott.
Yes. Who'd you think?
I thought you said McVay.
No, Sean McDermott.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the 1:00 game. Yes. This I did see.
Yeah. Pinned them back, and they had all 3 timeouts. I think that's something that's being lost in the national.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, so he needs to have more high percentage passes. I think it was 3 deep shots there.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is you're
just trying to get 1 first down.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe you get some type of momentum there and you get in field goal range. But he goes 3 deep passes. I think only 16 seconds go off the clock. The Texans need to punt it. I'm sorry. The Bills need to punt it to the Texans. Texans they had their timeouts and they set up a 59-yard field goal to win the game. I know Philadelphia sometimes doesn't like Nick's aggressiveness in some of those situations. He would be lambasted for doing what he did. I don't mind passing in that spot because if you just run,
Right,
he calls 3 timeouts, then you're punting. But what you want to try to do is if you're passing is not having incompletion, right? You want like a high percentage pass that's going to get at least the clock ticking a bit, get you some cushion as opposed to what happened there.
I don't hate it though because you have one of the best quarterbacks in football. If he completes one of those passes, all of a sudden you need like 2 more completions and you kick a field goal yourself. I don't know. That's what else is having Josh Allen for?
I also think that probably, if in the Eagles structure, I feel like that would be more on Kellen, right? Do you think more? I think
exactly.
that would be more on Kellen than on Sirianni.
Yeah. Make sure that you become a diehard, by the way. And if you are a diehard, I think it's probably too late now, but we could make accommodations because tonight we have the Zach Berman book event. And how about this super chat from No Semicolons who says he just checked the mail and got his signed copy of the franchise. Zach is the absolute best for helping out us folks who don't live in Philly anymore.
I appreciate that. I sent about 38 books out on Friday. Yeah. I have a spreadsheet, and I promise you, I'm going to get to everyone. I need to keep a certain volume of books for tonight's book event, so I couldn't send out my entire allotment. I have more books coming in this week. I'll also see how many I have after tonight. I will send out another shipment the end of this week. But everyone who reached out to me, I promise you I will get you books. And if you want a signed copy, you can message me, DM me, or my DMs are open everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, and I will send you. I will.
I wanted to say OnlyFans, but I didn't.
I don't even know what that means, though.
What that means. Don't pretend you don't know what that means.
No, I know like the concept. I've never. I don't know how that works is my point. Okay. Yeah. So no, I don't know what that means. But in any event, wow. In any event, yeah. Reach out to me if you want to sign copy, but I really appreciate that message.
By the way, I don't even know what the show is, but there's a new HBO show called The Franchise?
There's an HBO show called The Franchise?
I think so.
Oh, really? Okay.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, hopefully that helps the SEO.
HBO. It's a comedy series. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I love comedy.
A satirical comedy, so it's right up Bo's alley. Created by John Brown and executive.
What does that mean?
You love satire. It depicts the issues faced by a film crew and production on a superhero film. I'll check it out. It came out last night.
There you go. Another super chat from Chase Daniel Plainview, who says, this season, Joe Flacco has the most passing touchdowns of the Eagles' 2021 quarterback room. Did Howie make a mistake in trading away such an elite player? I actually was thinking about Joe Flacco yesterday in the context of like this exercise that we're doing, like getting guys getting better. And like Joe Flacco, when he was here, didn't look very good. Then he goes and, he looks really good with Stefanski. He looks pretty good with Steichen. And I think part of the larger coaching conversation with Nick Sirianni is even beyond the game management. Like, how many players have really gotten better over the past 2 years? Significantly better? It's a pretty small list, and there's a lot of young guys on this team. Like, I don't know.
I mean, AJ got better going from Tennessee to Philly.
Right, but it was even then, it's just volume,
Yeah.
Like,
look, DeAndre Swift got better here. Now, I don't know if that's a Nick thing, but yeah, they have had guys who've had career years here, have gone on, been paid elsewhere.
I think it's the big thing is like 2 years versus 4 years. Yeah. I think by selecting a sample of the last two where everything has looked bad versus like over the course of 2021.
Right? Like,
the team has not looked good in the last 18 months.
Right, but from a player development standpoint, like
less than that.
you use a first-round pick on Jordan Davis, a guy who has all these tools. We're going to get the most out of him. Haven't really seen it. Similar experience with Dylan Smith so far, early in his career.
Yep.
He plays hard, but that elite athleticism has not necessarily shown up. Like, go on down the line.
I'm not here to defend Nick here, right? But if an offensive lineman improving is credited to Jeff Stoutland, then a defensive lineman not improving shouldn't be put on Nick Sirianni.
No, but it's his coaching staff.
Sure, and they have made changes on the defensive line coach.
Yeah,
but I hear your point. I think it matters. I think quarterback in particular is where you can say it. Now, Joe Flacco was barely here, right? They traded for Gardner Minshew after the final preseason game, and then they traded Flacco the day after the Raiders game.
Right.
Flacco barely played, but he wasn't great in that summer, sure. But Flacco's in a terrific role right now where he's just he's like the backup quarterback who comes in fearless, throws it all over the yard. And I actually enjoyed his post game press conference last night where he was pretty honest. He was talking about how he had once been in Anthony Richardson's situation. And he was like, yeah, I did everything to get back. I didn't want Lamar to play at all. Basically saying he knew Lamar was going to get the job.
Right.
So,
okay.
Nice one for me.
You have Mr. Irrelevant.
Yes, and this guy's not Mr. Irrelevant. He's relevant to me, and he's relevant to our viewers and a lot of people in this area.
Shipley?
Jake Elliott. Okay, I knew you were gonna make that face. Okay, Jake Elliott had.
Especially with the buildup of this guy's super relevant. Yeah,
Jake Elliott has attempted 4 field goal attempts so far.
Yep.
Okay. And if you look around the NFL at the way 50-yard field goals are kicked, there have been 96 field goal attempts of 50-plus yards during the first 4 weeks in the NFL season so far, right? That stat does not seem right, but let me double check it, but that's what I have here.
It's like Pro Football Focus.
Sell it. No sell by you.
I'm saying 96. All right, I got to go back and look that stat up. But there have been a lot of 50-yard. Anecdotally, there have been a lot of 50-yard field goal attempts. Jake Elliott's 15 of 17 in the past 3 years in 50-plus yard field goal attempts. Okay, I think that this is a spot where you could see the Eagles lean into this more. He's only attempted 1 field goal attempt of over 50 yards this season. He's 30th in the NFL in field goal attempts overall. I get it. You don't want your kicker kicking a lot of field goals because that means you're inefficient in the red zone. But that doesn't explain 50-yarders, 55-yarders. And Jake Elliott can be a weapon there. We've seen the Eagles go for 4th downs. But the Eagles, if you're talking about someone who's going to have a better final 13 games than first 4 games, I think Jake Elliott's an obvious candidate for this list. He's one of the best kickers in the league. And he's only kicked 4 field goals so far.
Okay. This is my version of your Bryce Huff. I don't have much to say about Jake Elliott. I believe you.
I mean, kickers around the league are nailing these 50-plus yarders.
I think, but there wasn't a couple weeks ago. I think it was a story that the kicking success had gone. There was the flash moments of 60-plus yard field goals, but overall there were more missed kicks than normal
because of the volume. More teams are attempting those kicks than ever before. So maybe the 96 one. Doesn't actually maybe could that be right, or is that
96? I mean, 16 games a week.
Yeah,
in the weeks 1 through 3, and then fewer.
No, this is through the
weeks 1 through 4.
Yeah, so you're
5.
looking at 6 attempts of 6 attempts a week of 50-plus yards. I don't.
It sounds high, but.
It does sound high.
Who has time to look these numbers up?
I did look up. I was excited for this Jake Elliott one here. I have the True Media page up here for Jake Elliott. Yes.
Who else did you guys have on? Who was also in consideration for
all
it?
right. So I had C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I had Josh Sweat. I had Jordan Davis. I had the Sirianni game management. I had Devin White. And
Devin White. That's a good one.
Yeah. Dallas Goedert. Kenny Gainwell. Jahan Dotson.
I had Sidney Brown.
Yeah, it's funny that none of us said Dotson.
Dotson's on my list here. I had Sidney Brown. I had Cam Jurgens, thinking that just can get more time on task there. You mentioned Dotson. I had Lane Johnson because he missed a game here. And Kellen Moore.
Okay.
Dotson is tough to envision because if the other guys are getting healthy, like he's not going to, those chances are going to.
I mean,
this was his
you would
opportunity.
think that he's going to be a little bit more efficient because he's been like the least efficient wide receiver in a long time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a volume that matters.
Yeah.
So
Shipley, I had Trotter Jr. potentially.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really about it. I think the C.J. Gardner-Johnson one is a concerning one. That he didn't quite pass the test for any of us.
Right. Yeah. That he didn't crack our list. Yeah, that's a good point. All right.
field goals, 50. That's 96, right? 74 of 96 in the NFL this season.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So that number is correct.
There you go.
Oh, man, the last thing I would want to do is put out false information.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We'll leave it alone for today. All right. Thank you to everybody for watching the show live today and listening after the fact. Good to be back in the saddle. Full week of shows coming up tomorrow in the Fran Duffy seat. It's going to be our friend Vinny Curry. So going to be me, Vinny, and Zach. Looking forward to that. Wednesday, you got Jamie and Rich. Thursday, back with me and Fran and Zach at the facility. And then Friday with Daniz joining the fray. So for all of us here at PHLY, we thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.